So hi everyone, welcome to our webinar, our working from home webinar. Today we are talking to Diana from Nomi Network, and Diana, I think Jules and I wanted to start these working from home webinars because we wanted people to learn about modern slavery and learn from our partners who we work with about modern slavery, but also we realize that it's such a challenging and difficult time, and the situation has got so much worse, or we'd like to hear from you about how it's going in your network because of COVID. So over to you. Please tell us a bit about yourself and tell everyone who you are and where you are and everything like that.
Yes, well, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much, Princess Eugenie and Jules, for having me. So I'm the co-founder and president of Nomi Network. I started the organization about 10 years ago with two other women, similar to you all. And we just were really passionate from having personal experiences living in Asia and seeing human trafficking thrive firsthand. And just the children and women that we met compelled us to take action about a decade ago. Currently, I am in Kansas City, sheltering in. As you know, globally, we're all facing the same challenge, and I'm really blessed to be here. I'm constantly in touch with our field offices in India and Cambodia on calls, and the situation there is just so grim. Imagine the challenges we face here, even in the US, in accessing certain products and certain resources. There, it's 10 times worse, especially in rural areas. So yeah, thank you for having me today just to share a little bit about our work and the situation in Asia.
Can you talk a bit more about actually what Nomi does do for people who don't know?
Yeah, absolutely. So we provide training and job opportunities for survivors and women at risk of human trafficking in Cambodia and India. As you know, there's approximately 40 million people in slavery today, and half the world's population of those enslaved live in India. And so we work in 3 of the poorest states in northern India: Bihar, Odisha, and West Bengal. And we have 7 training centers in northern India and a fashion school and incubator in Cambodia, where we serve 65 nonprofit organizations and social enterprises that send their clients to our training center, and they receive coursework in fashion, merchandising, pricing. We receive mentorship from designers ranging from Gap to Fossil. And so we're really keen on investing in survivors and helping them carve out a career pathway and upward mobility opportunities.
It's amazing the work that you're doing. Diana, in many cases, modern slavery is a hidden crime. So how do you guys manage to find those men and women who are at risk and vulnerable to be able to do what you do so well?
It's a great question. Well, in Cambodia, we're in Phnom Penh. I don't know if you all have traveled there, but it's
we went there together.
it's a growing city, and we work with over 65 organizations like the IJMs, the Hagars, and probably some of the places you visited as well. And they refer clients to our training center. In India, we strategically set up our training sites perpendicularly or across the street within a less than a half a mile vicinity of the red light district. So traditionally, we've done a lot of outreach. For example, when we started in northern India in partnership with the Department of State in 2012, we would go brothel to brothel, me and my co-founder and our program manager, Shankar, and share about the program. And of course, during that period, there was just a lot of skepticism because we were foreigners and, with our local staff coming in. But over the years, since 2012, we now have a wait list because everything in rural India happens through word of mouth. And because the women who've graduated, so many cohorts now since 2012, the community members, both survivors and marginalized women who just simply have never had their first job, are enrolling in our programs. And the 6 other centers initially do outreach, but because we're in the community working with the HIV clinics, those community partners refer trainees to us as well.
And so a lot of your work though will be working with businesses and sort of incentivizing them to work with you and build programs around survivors of trafficking.
Yeah, so in India, we refer women to about 8 different sectors, ranging from hospitality to manufacturing to government hospitals. And so we have a partnership, Marriott Calcutta. We also have a partnership with Shahi Industries, India's largest export manufacturer that exports to the US and Europe. H&M, Target, Kohl's, all of the brands that you and I have touch point with, Shahi exports to those companies. And so the women that we've trained through our 12-month curriculum, from not being able to even sign their names, illiterate, to never having their first job and being exposed to, whether they've been trafficked or extremely abused by family members, by their spouses, now have the opportunity to secure their first job. And so it's an entry-level position, but for them, the difference between having a paycheck versus not is being in a household that is extremely abusive. One woman, Rashawn, who I met in 2013, she graduated in 2015 and then started earning income and saved, I think, within a year, saved $80, which is pretty significant because the average microfinance loan is like $50 in these communities, and was able to move out of the red light district and rebuild a hut and squat on government land. And most people in rural India do that. And so rebuilt her hut outside of the red light district. And then from that point on, now most recently, years later in 2019, she purchased her own small little piece of land and is building a hut. And one of the reasons she did that was, as a single woman who just got out of a very abusive household, being abused by her stepmother and her father, they lived right in the red light district and they were on the brink of trafficking her. She adopted a teenage survivor's daughter. So the teenage survivor joined our program because of Rashawn, because Rashawn was living at the time in the red light district. And so she was able to enroll in the program. And unfortunately, she ended up going back to her pimp. At the time, she was 16 years old, and her pimp was also her husband. In India, there is another form of trafficking called intergenerational prostitution, in which in-laws, parents, husbands will traffic their spouse. And unfortunately, that was her case. And before going back to Nepal with her husband, she left her baby at our office and named her baby Nomi, which is after my organization. And Rashawn adopted her. This was a few years ago, and now baby Nomi is thriving and under Rashawn's care. And since then, Rashawn just got married last year as well, and so is totally rebuilding her life. And we've hired her as a trainer and a mentor for our Bihar program site.
I mean, Jules, if that's a story of hope, that's,
yeah.
Jules, that's like our dream.
We always ask when we do these webinars for a story of hope, because it can get very heavy and when you look at the enormity of the problem, but usually we don't even need to ask that question because that's an amazing, amazing story of hope. So thank you for sharing. Are there any organizations similar to Nomi that operate in the UK and the US, specifically doing the training or the preventative work that you're doing, helping women find another route in life?
Yeah, well, in the US, I'm a huge fan of Thistle Farms. Thistle Farms is in Tennessee, and they produce a lot of products such as chapstick, candles, and I believe they're run by nuns who became very passionate about the issue. And they really have a holistic focus on job training as well as a social enterprise. Similar to Nomi, our model is a bit different, is that most of our training and placements happen in partnership with the private sector, and we have a small arm that produces products as well. And Thistle Farms, they've done a really great job at mass marketing and selling products and getting them placed into retail channels. And their products are really well made, organic, obviously fair trade as well. So that, and then there are a lot of organizations also in the US that do provide training. But you know, as a challenge overall in the anti-human trafficking community, scaling those programs are really critical and challenging. And so for Nomi, early on, we realized that, you know, we started very humbly in Northern India and Bihar. We trained hundreds of women, and what has allowed us to train thousands of women and help them secure jobs or help them start their own micro enterprises is through partnership with the private sector. So we're also doing that in the US as we're planning to launch our US program in New York and in Dallas. And the reason we chose both is because of the amount of human trafficking and data, which shows that these two cities are trafficking hotspots.
And Diana, could you talk a bit about your what's happening because of COVID now to Nomi Network and all your different people out in India and Cambodia, and your amazing campaign Stop the Spread. So we'd love to hear a bit more about that and share that with people.
Yeah. So for Nomi, you know, we're an international organization. We've had to pivot the past month into, in essence, disaster relief, especially in India, where with the government shutdown, sadly, a lot of migrant workers are coming back from Delhi and Maharashtra and Bangalore by foot or hitchhiking, and they're flooding these villages with COVID-19. In fact, just this week, there was a migrant worker who came back from Bangalore, and he hitchhiked on a truck that had produce. And so he ended up in Purnia, which is about 3 miles out of a region where we work. And he brought back, he basically had symptoms of COVID and has COVID, but he had some produce that he was selling that he managed to get access to from the produce truck and was selling that in the market. So there's not adequate testing, unfortunately, in Purnia. There's one testing site for a state of Bihar, 103 million people. And Patna, where the testing site is about 6 hours by car away from Purnia. And so, you know, for us, food and water is most critical. As you probably might have heard, rural community members are more scared of starvation than contracting COVID-19. And that is the reality. We are providing food and water, cooking food and water, providing it at least once a day in our 7 training sites. And some of the women in our program have made masks to distribute to community members, and now we're ramping up those efforts of producing masks and then handing out hand sanitizer where that's available. But programmatically, we've pivoted because initially we're supposed to enroll new cohorts of trainees in April. So we've had to put a pause on that. And instead, our training program is 12 months. And the first 3 months, we place a heavy emphasis on health and hygiene and life skills, because self-confidence is so important. If you can't, you know, if you don't have the motivation or belief in yourself to come to class, that really needs to be addressed. That's a huge barrier. And so we really invest in the women, trauma-informed curriculum to help them build self-identity, address some of the fears. For example, they're scared to leave the red light district because they're harassed oftentimes by community members because of their lower, you know, they have lower status in terms of the greater caste system that exists in these communities. And so through 3 months, pretty much every day, we focus on health and hygiene, things that you and I are accustomed to, like washing hands. You know, we would never play outside in the, you know, in the dirt, and then also come to class and touch paper with our hands. So these are things that we really have to initially address within our curriculum because the women are not accustomed to these practices. And so behavioral change in health and hygiene is a focus that we felt it was really important before their place in a job, working in an ethical factory or working at a government hospital as a entry-level nurse's aide even. And we've taken that and we've condensed it into basically 2 days of content. We've hired 200 of our top graduates with the highest marks in the 3 states to create banners, create outreach material, and then also protocols where they go household to household, of course with social distancing, to communicate what is COVID-19, how do you prevent it, and if you're showing symptoms, this is what you do. So those are some of the basics, and they cover, have taken our curriculum coupled with the WHO different prevention strategies, and we've created not just material, but also videos that any nonprofit in India can access. We've taken the liberty of translating it into Hindi, and so that is also available on our website, COVID, or www.nominetwork.org/stop-the-spread. Any nonprofit can download the video and the slides and material and just begin using it in India.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Diana. Thank you for sharing your words of wisdom. And it's great to hear what you guys are doing at Nomi Network. For our listeners, the Nomi Network seeks to end modern slavery through economic empowerment. And you can read more about them if you click the link in our bio. Bye, Diana, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
Bye.